Welcome, every pony. My name is Drummy, and I'm joined here today by a very special guest. And I have absolutely no idea how I was going to introduce you because you go by many names.
I think for this, for the sake of this and simplicity, I think Mr. Gamer is that's sufficient.
So, I've shown you the pony persona that was chosen for you, right?
Yes, you have.
Yeah, it's an incredibly good likeness of Godot. I have to say the artist did a very, very good job of capturing Godot's essence and his pizzazz, and just I want to put like the music undertone right here for the Godot theme. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And if I were going to be any sort of prosecutor in another life, it would be him. Not only the visor that he has, but he's just a calm, smooth individual, and I always love myself a nice cup of coffee.
Yeah, very, very smooth. Although I could never understand that name Godot.
As far as it has so many different variations. I thought it was Godot, but like I said, wait. Tomato.
No, wait. I'm sorry. Inner comedian in me was trying to feed you the line.
And swing and a miss.
I know. Because I was like thinking about that, and I was like, I always thought it was pronounced Godot, and I always thought when I was playing the game, playing Phoenix Wright, how weird it was that his name was Godot, and I just like, okay, I guess I've seen weirder names in Phoenix Wright games, and I guess that's when you brought it up, and you're like, no, his name's Godot, and I'm like, what?
Nope, that's completely that is completely fair. But yeah.
So first off, my apologies to people at home who had to see my terrible comedic skills. I promise I'll improve as time goes on. But this was an idea that Mr. Gamer and I had back when we first met, and me and him, we were talking at a Brony get together, and we clicked, right? I mean, that would be like the best way of putting it.
Yeah, like there was it was after everybody had their hey, how you doing, what's going on, I saw, or I had heard that there was some sort of conversation about a specific episode of My Little Pony, and being a fan of the show who thinks a lot about it, I had heard something along the lines of, I had done all this research for 15 minutes for a video. It was one of the videos you were talking about doing. And a lot of people had gathered around, and one thing led to another, and we started talking. Well, talking is one way of putting it. We started debating how exactly Twilight came to have all of her different timelines, and then what exactly did that look like?
Right.
Like, is that a tree? Is it a line?
Yeah. And to clarify, this is actually the topic of one of my videos on the channel of Friendship Theory, which discusses the idea of the quote unquote time loop in the It's About Time episode.
Yes, thank you.
But you and I had so much fun because everybody was just listening to us and taking in everything that we said, and I thought, and that was when I realized that this was a guy I wanted to hang out with and get to know. So that's when I called you, and we went out for steak, and I think ultimately I think this was your idea that you brought up first, but I immediately latched onto it, which was the idea of doing this, which is a debate style talk show.
And I think that, and I will agree with you on that one, because you are, you've got your own opinion. I've got my own opinion. You and I have, enough, how can I put it? I want to say you and I have enough background knowledge, There we go.
Chutzpah.
That one word that I'm going to attempt to pronounce maybe in the next few seconds. Chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
To try to make this try to make this a thing. So I love the debate. I love how your viewpoint of it, because it was never combative. It was just another way of looking at things. And I'm like, I need to hang around this guy. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. This could be the start of a beautiful collaboration, which turned into what we have now.
And to be fair, Mr. Gamer, you have that same quality, and that's why I was pretty sure this would work, is because, and this is now kind of like directing the people who are watching or listening in. This show is going to be a debate style show in which Mr. Gamer and I, me, Drummy, if you forgot who I was, because I have been gone a while. We're gonna take topics, and I guess the best way of looking at it is we're gonna spar over them. And what's important to know is that these topics will vary. They could be brony related, they could be video game related, they can be social topic. But with each of these debate topics, each of us are going to take an opposing side. So we're not going to have a situation where Mr. Gamer and I are just going to agree wholeheartedly on the whole situation. I don't think that's going to be nearly as entertaining. And what Mr. Gamer and I realize is that it's a lot of fun to have that moment of yeah, I guess the other side could have a legitimate point if you frame the argument right.
Right, it's like, oh, okay, that's not necessarily bad or anything, but I didn't quite see it that way. Okay, right. Go on, please.
Yeah, so now, as a disclaimer, the views that are expressed on this show do not always specifically outline the beliefs of Mr. Gamer or I. Although most of the time we'll probably veer towards that, and especially with this first topic, this was the one that got started. We're both pretty in the ditch about our side of the argument. But like in future arguments, there might be a situation where one of us will take the opposing argument for the sake of the video and not so much to fight that point. Hopefully you people at home understand. I know Mr. Gamer understands what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, let's get right into it. It's the showdown of the century. Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton.
And I have to say, just to start this off, I really don't know if there is much of a match when you have to consider but let's just say that their strong qualities, because it would be unfair for me to say that Phoenix Wright does not have a quality of looking at things in a different way, thinking outside the box. That is one thing that he is exceptional at, and I will give that to him.
You are absolutely right. I think we can just agree that Phoenix Wright is the greater hero here. I think that's good. We got about 12 minutes on the video.
I did not go that far.
I'm sorry.
I said he has excellent. He has excellent qualities as far as looking at things in a different light. But if we were to talk puzzle solving, that's too specific. Solving a problem, for example, in the last game, where it was basically, okay, let's go, Professor Layton, and then you have, Phoenix Wright riding along the coattails, because he was supposed to be the defender, but when it came down to it, he really needed the professor for that.
So, whoa, Mr. Gamer, are you saying that you think that in a battle of character between Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton, that Professor Layton would win?
Yes, I would say that.
You, sir, have a challenge.
All right.
You, sir, have a challenge. I could not disagree more. I will, however, I will, however, say, in good fairness, that Professor Layton certainly carries an aura of bravado about him, a gentlemanly aura of bravado. He certainly,
Of course.
he certainly nails that home every time he says that he's a gentleman. He absolutely has to make that point all the time, that he's an absolute gentleman. But I'll give that to him. Oh, he's an absolute gentleman. However, we're not talking about who is the greater top hat wearer. we are pitting these two characters together in an argument that began almost exactly like this. You believe that in the game Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton, and for those of you who have not heard of this, it was a game developed by Level 5 with help from Capcom, especially with help of Sudokumi, to make a crossover game with Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright. And I don't think either of us are going to argue that the game was bad. I think we have our agreements on some things that are weird about the game. But what came out of this was this interesting point where I was sure that you would just agree that between Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton, that Phoenix Wright was just clearly the better character to root for, and that Professor Layton was just fluff. But you apparently are totally nowhere near that base of operation.
No, not at all. I cannot say that they are even close to being equals in the sense of, given what Professor Layton did in that game, not only...
I need to make clear about something. You're saying that in a contest between Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright, it's not a contest.
Yes, I am saying that it is not a contest.
Wow.
I am saying, and I'm going to keep this PG, but the bumbling oaf of Phoenix Wright does not hold a candle. Dare I say, he could not defend himself against Professor Layton. That is what I am saying.
All right, Mr. Prosecutor Godot. I will let you. I'll let you take the first step to the bat, and I'm gonna let you talk about what you think are the epitome qualities of Professor Layton that make him the better character. I'll let you. I'll just let you go. Go on. Put up your hero and allow me the right to tear him down.
Well then, if you feel as if you could, I will do so. First off, in the video game Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton, it's a dual type of game where you have the cases that Phoenix Wright does because he is the quote-unquote Sir Defender, and you have Professor Layton going along the town collecting hint coins and solving puzzles, as you would expect. Two different types of characters. But there are moments in the game where you could say that their worlds combine, where you have Phoenix Wright solving some puzzles, albeit not very well. You have Professor Layton defending. You have Professor Layton hinting like most people who are partnered with Phoenix Wright has to do. Even his own sidekick, Maya. Hey, Phoenix, don't you think that blah, 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 blah? I mean, I'm not going to go on to competent sidekicks, but if you were to replace Professor Layton with Phoenix Wright as the defender, just based on what Phoenix Wright does not very well and what Professor Layton does very well, there would not be much of a difference in gameplay. You can just put a blue suit onto Professor Layton.
Oh gosh. If only your sword was a little sharper, I might feel a little more worried. But alas, I think you still need to make a sharper point.
Okay, then. So, what is it? What is it about my? What is it about my points that weren't so sharp?
Well, let's focus on your idea that Professor Layton is infallible in his assertions of dominance in the courtroom. Whereas, if that were the case, it would not require Phoenix Wright to solve these cases in the first place. It would not require Phoenix Wright to come to the defense of those in need. Why on earth would it matter to Professor Layton if Phoenix Wright did or did not want to be a defender? I say that secretly, Professor Layton realizes who's the greater character in the courtroom.
The greater character in the courtroom. If I'm understanding what you're saying, so you believe that Professor Layton did not overstep his bounds and let Phoenix Wright do what he believed Phoenix Wright was better at doing, being the greater character. Am I understood?
That is absolutely my point. Let's focus on what exactly did Professor Layton do in his adventures with Phoenix Wright. First off, let's give Professor Layton a little bit of credit. He certainly was able to flip through a fake book of spells in order to find the right spell that was needed to uncover the case. Something that, if Phoenix Wright had a moment to look at it, could have just done himself.
Okay. Yes, that is true. If he had a moment, I'm sure Phoenix Wright could have, pieced together through the Grand Grimoire and found all the correct spells that he needed. He didn't, but I'm sure he could have.
I certainly give you that credit. But let's focus on point number 2 of what Professor Layton did. One of the key parts of the story, it revolves around Professor Layton discovering the truth of the storyteller.
Yes.
This whole plot arc is only possible because Professor Layton was given the hand of Deus Ex Machina and said, "You don't have to forget who you are." While, might I remind you, that Phoenix Wright had to remember who he was through the poisonous toxins in the water of Labyrinthia. He had to fight to recall that he wasn't just a bread maker. He wasn't even a bread maker. He was a lawyer. And from deep within him, he fought back against biological control, something that had fallen the entire town, and was able to command his presence again. That right there is a lot greater than for Professor Layton to just inadvertently have been under the scrutiny of the storyteller since the very beginning. If I was Professor Layton, and let's make it clear, I'm no smarty pants, but if I was Professor Layton and I found myself at the ire of the Lord of this world, I'd probably be a little suspicious of him too.
Okay, so there were certain handicaps that Phoenix Wright was under.
Exactly.
There were certain, so I'll say that, he had some things he had to try to get through to get to the real Phoenix Wright, not the bread maker, but the defense attorney. Yes, of course, he had to get through that. But that goes to, I have to, I guess, go after that point with a question.
Sure.
What is it that you say that Phoenix Wright depends on when he is in a trial?
All right.
Because me personally, I would have to say that Phoenix Wright is a lucky lawyer.
All right. I'm going to have to agree with you at least partially, because let's face it, in the Phoenix Wright games, Phoenix Wright often is able to solve cases purely because something happens to his benefit. But that is from a gameplay perspective. Again, if we were talking about things as a gameplay perspective, we would be having a completely different argument. I mean, who here is the greater gentleman? He who wastes his time solving puzzles to get answers to really important problems, or he who comes to the defense of people's lives when they're in court? But we're not talking about that. To answer your question, and more importantly, get back on point, the quality of Phoenix Wright has absolutely nothing to do with his intelligence or his know-how of physics or science. I will submit to you absolutely when it comes to knowledgeable science and the proper ways of drinking tea, that Professor Layton just has that down. I mean,
okay.
I mean, if I were to recall in the bonus content of Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton, that Professor Layton easily drinks 16 cups of tea a day.
Yes, he is a very avid tea drinker. I will give you that. So, if we are not looking at the gameplay mechanics and we are not trying to simply say who was the better gentleman, what is it that you are saying that Phoenix Wright has to himself as a person doing what he does best, which is defending people, believing in them, trusting in them? What makes him a better character than Professor I'll take care of it, don't worry, I'm a gentleman, Layton?
But Mr. Gamer, you've already made my point for me. You see, that's really the essence of what makes Phoenix Wright a better character. I would like to, if I may, bring a quote from Mr. Miles Edgeworth of the Phoenix Wright game franchise.
Okay.
In the third installment of the original Ace Attorney trilogy, Mr. Edgeworth brings it to point when he explains what makes Phoenix Wright an amazing attorney. It's not his ability to just know things. It's not his ability to simply have all the answers. Yes, sometimes he gets spoon-fed a little problem here and there. Other times, however, it has nothing to do with him getting spoon-fed an issue, but rather he has to fight to keep the case going. On many occasions, a case led by Phoenix Wright would have been decided immediately if Mr. Wright had simply given up and accepted that he didn't have any evidence. It's my belief that in that same situation, that Professor Layton wouldn't have that gumption. To point, Professor Layton goes on record to say that Phoenix Wright's way of looking at puzzles and his unique way of taking things into a different perspective and tackling it unforgivingly, never giving up.
So let's say that Phoenix Wright is in a bit of a bind. He has gone through every piece of evidence. He has tried, he's pressed the witness for as much testimony as the witness will give. But still, he cannot find it. He can't press anymore. Judge is simply requesting that he wants to release his verdict. But Phoenix, being the person that he is, being the character that he is, he will not give up. He will find the answer, right?
He'll find the contradiction.
He will find it. It's just hidden away, right?
Yes.
And then in comes a person who can, dare I say it, solve the puzzle, because that's what he does. he finds the answer for the person who can't solve it.
Now, I will agree. I'm afraid I have to concede at least this much. That Professor Layton at the end handled himself pretty well. But, and this is coming from the mouth of Professor Layton himself, that if not for the diligence, for the tenacity, and for the courage to never give up until you can find the contradiction, which is a skill that Professor Layton admits that he doesn't really understand.
Okay, I would agree, but what I would say is, out of over the 100 puzzles, and there's like maybe I don't know if there's more than, let's just say a sprinkle, a slight sprinkle that Phoenix solves. One that he has, there's a few that he has, one that he has to solve, one that he has to solve, and then there's a like sprinkle of ones that he actually solves.
Yes, and let's be fair, this isn't a contest of puzzles.
Nope, no, it's not.
What I'm highlighting here is the fact that Professor Layton, who should be the master of puzzles, was stumped by the most curious of problems, that he was forced to look at a problem from a perspective that he was beholden to. Now, I'm not trying to say that Professor Layton is a bad guy. In fact, I will go on record right now of saying that between Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright, unlike you, I think it actually is a very good contest. I wouldn't give it to Phoenix Wright by the miles and miles that you want to give it to Professor Layton, of course. But I would certainly say that Phoenix Wright has qualities that make him the victor of the contest of Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton.
I am just when I think of the history of the two characters, the history of all the, dare I say it, trials and tribulations that Phoenix Wright has gone through versus all the puzzles and just little logic things that Professor Layton has gone into. If these two were to be in a contest, not even a contest where they have to defend someone, or a contest where there is a puzzle where they are told to sit in a room and there's a puzzle to be solved, I believe that based on the way that Professor Layton thinks, though it may not be as dynamic and as easily molded as Phoenix Wright, because Phoenix Wright does have that trait of looking at it, flipping it, spinning it around until it works. He has that capability, which is great, but it's not something that you can really depend on. And there's a point. Dependability, someone you can depend on. And once will I bring another character in. Luke, his assistant, is a dependable person. Someone you can depend on for whatever. Obviously, he does not have the puzzle solving skills as the professor, but that is expected. He is the assistant. And then Phoenix Wright has Maya. And Maya, through her spirit
we don't really need to talk about Maya. I mean, we're supposed to be focusing on Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton.
Correct, we are, and these two characters have quote unquote sidekicks.
Oh boy,
they do. And my point on the dependability of the character, as in if I absolutely had to, if I was at gunpoint, and I hope this never happens, if I was at gunpoint and I had to choose between the extremely lucky and dynamic thinking of Phoenix Wright and then the solid, the concrete, the structurally sound logic of Professor Layton, I would have to choose Layton each time. I would have to, because it's something that I can depend on. They work wonderfully separately. They do. Phoenix Wright, and I will say it again, has an amazing quality of switching things up until it fits, because he knows the truth. He just has to find it. He gets lucky. Sometimes he's spoon-fed. Sometimes he's given a small magatama so that he can unlock people's psych lock so he can get to their true secrets.
We don't really need to highlight the magatama. That thing isn't even used anymore, really. I mean, when's the last time you saw the magatama used? I don't even. What's a magatama? I don't even. I don't even know what you're talking about. You know what? I think that we can come to terms with the fact that we will most certainly agree to disagree. And I can concede that in a contest of wits, that Professor Layton would have Phoenix Wright hands down, but that's not the point.
Okay.
I do think it's amazing that these two characters were able to come together, and work together in a pretty solid way.
Oh yeah, I would if they made a second one. I'm in line to buy that game right, like bam, right there. Take my money.
It's got to have a better ending than the one we got. All right, it's got to have a better ending. I mean, black paint. That's the big mystery. It's black paint. I mean, that's not even Professor Layton or Phoenix Wright. I don't know who wrote that.
A very lazy writer. That's the best answer.
Whoa! It was Su Takumi who wrote it.
Well, hey, everyone has their moments. Hey, I'm just dealing with what's in front of me. Everybody has their moments. You know, good, bad, or ugly. Everybody's got their moments. And I will also agree that, you know, that dynamic way of thinking is excellent given what he does.
I think we covered this pretty well. I hope that you all listening at home enjoyed this, and if you did, please leave a like or comment below. Let us know what you think. If you have suggestions for topics in the future, you can of course leave a comment for that, and we can consider it. But as is our structure that we're making for this show, the next topic will be introduced by the opposing player. Now, in this one, since we both just straight up agreed on it, I'll ask you, do you have an idea for a topic that you'd like to do?
Well, I believe I do. I believe that it would be based on another conversation that you and I had on the beautiful game of Bravely Default.
Oh my god, I was gonna say that! That was what I wanted to do! You stole my idea! I'm going to wreck you.
Oh.
You, sir, are gonna be wrecked. Next time on Two Bronies Debate, it's Bravely Default.